And welcome back to the Constitutionals Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there, episode 209. Quite literally, the day you are hearing this. You will have also, just touched the mic, I'm adjusting everything on the fly here. You'd have also seen or listened to or had the chance to listen to an interview I did with Shelby Wolstein of the Keeping Records podcast over there on the HeadGum Network. Good interview. Check it out. But now we're doing this. We're doing, I was going to say a live episode of this show, but it's not. It's not live. I wouldn't want it to be. If you're watching the video, you might see me fiddling around with some stuff at this point. I got to tell you, I was not prepared to do this today. But I said, why not get it out of the way? So so earlier this week, I'll tell you the behind the scenes of more behind the scenes. I was going. Last week I had an inkling. I already had some stories lined up. I had like 2 stories lined up, both about Patreon. But then I had an inkling last week. I knew this week was going to be Conan's last. She got an email, $70 off of Final Draft 12. So if I want to upgrade to a program that's also still the 11th version is barely running on my laptop. It doesn't matter how powerful your laptop is. In a couple of years, it'll be dead. It's going to be not dead. It'll be very weak. Oh my God, look at me. I'm framed up nicely. The lighting is great. Ugh. I bought these 2 new LED lights. I don't know if I talked about that. And they're the only negative I have. Well, I have 2 negatives. One, the stand is very flimsy. It's like they call it a tripod, but it's twist and lock, and I cannot figure that out for the life of me. And there's instructions on the tripod that says pull up, turn right, and I do it, and it doesn't work. One time I locked it, and then also they require USB power, which is good and bad. So bad for because I got I don't have extra USB plug-in pot spots, so I gotta. One's plugged in a laptop, and the other, two, they're both plugged into the wall. I had to find wall plugs, wall USB plug-ins. So anyway, I knew I was going to do an episode about late night at some, because Conan was retiring, so I said, I got to do this. But then that was just expedited because Trevor Noah's going to break for the summer, and so is Kimmel, but Kimmel's show is still going to be going, while Trevor Noah's show is not, The Daily Show. And then Seth Meyers just said they're doing a 2-week break, which I can only assume will be extended to everybody but maybe Desus and Mero, who will probably do a 1-week break because they just came back after 3 months away or 2 months away, 2.5 months. But let's get started with the elephant in the room, Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien's show ended, his nightly late night show ended over on TBS after 11 years, I believe. 10 years. That's 11. 11 years, and it was a bittersweet end to the show. He got to be in front of a full audience for the final 2 weeks. He gave thanks to pretty much everybody. Andy got a lot of thanks, and even Conan's wife, who was there, got a lot of thanks. Just Jeff Ross, his executive producer, the Jimmy Vino, and the Basic Cable Now 4. Everybody got their thanks, and it was a wonderful thing to see. Conan and his team and Sona and everybody there just appreciative of the whole thing. Also found out that Conan found a way to pay his entire staff for the entirety of 2020. I assume that's their full salaries. I don't know. Or something. Same thing for Jimmy Kimmel's staff as well. Seth's staff probably because they've been back for a minute. I wouldn't say all the shows everybody was paid, but a lot of them were. So that's good to hear. As for Conan's last 2 weeks, he had a lot of friendly guests back. He had Bill Hader, Martin Short, just Seth Rogen, just a lot and Jack Black for the final episode. A lot of retrospective on some stuff. Too many clips, I might say. But it was nice to see TBS and Warner give him a chance to do this. So where does that leave late night? Late night is we lost Conan, but we gained 2 more shows, and we will go through late night shows wiki. I just Google late night shows whiskey. I just go. Okay. You can tell it's a Friday afternoon, and I just don't want to do this. So we got a lot of late night shows still on. So I guess that's good. I'll tell you what. This late night there we go. I was gonna say there's not a lot of late night shows on this wiki that are list. I just need a list for one time in my life. I need a list. There needs to be a list of current late night shows. G4 Tech TV, Unscrewed with Martin Sargent, lasted from May to November 2004. I was watching it at that time, so I don't exactly know if that's true or not. All right, I'm just trying to find a list of late night shows, and I probably should have done this ahead of time, but I refuse to. U.S. late night show list. Okay, but let's get on with the notes first. That's in my notes. So last week I talked about Seth Meyers and how he is truly thriving without an audience, how he's doing just some of the best work in late night today. But I'm a fan, so I don't know if you'll exactly agree. But this comes from Jacqueline Cutler over on Variety. If you didn't think I was going to have some journalist-based reporting in this, think again. Someone just honked outside. So, yes? Okay. I can't find. I was looking at something now. I can't go back. So without Trump and live audiences, late night talk shows refreshed their formats. And so, in particular, Ms. Cutler talks about Desus and Mero, Sam B, and Seth's show late night. And now that Biden is president, and I'm not gonna because I have a lot of stuff to go through, so I'm not gonna read through this. But now that Biden is president, all the jokes in late night period have kind of pivoted away from politics, and that's what a lot of people were championing Conan about. Championing Conan about it was that he was one of the last, if not the only remaining apolitical host. And that's not to say that he wasn't a political person, that he wasn't on the right side of history when it came to all that stuff, but he didn't dedicate every episode of the week to make reference to Trump and his cronies. So Sam B, Desus and Mero, and Seth Meyers, they had to change the way they did their work, obviously because of the pandemic. So Desus and Mero shot from home, and then later on in the pandemic, which is like a past couple months, they've been shooting some stuff around New York City, going to beaches, shooting at a mansion once. Sam B shot from her upstate home in New York or Connecticut with her husband, Jason Jones from Daily Show, who ex-Daily Show alum, and also what's that show called? Oh, God. It was a show on TBS it was Natalie Z and a bunch of other funny people. I can see the picture in my head. Yeah, who cares? Anyway, that's a good show. Check it out. But her family just shot that show from their backyard. And then also, and Seth obviously was shooting from first his attic and then his in-laws' home, and then now the studio. But still, they're all without audiences. They all just have their crew around. And I gotta tell you, Sam B is better for it. Sam B is I say that a lot about all these, but Sam B's, she never needed an audience. Being in studio, now they're allowed to do so much more. And the same thing goes for Seth. It's just, oh God, it's just so wonderful to see them do amazing work, and they're so funny. And remote, hard as it is. But now we're in a way that we can do it. All right, let's move on. More continuation about Seth Meyers. So I did a whole Seth Meyers appreciation segment last week. But CBS Sunday morning. This is me. My Sunday morning, I watch CBS Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. I get out of bed and I come in here. And now that I've okay, all right. A quick little story. Last Friday, after I'm done shooting the constitutionals, I go over, and I do this every Friday. I just go over, I start watching TV because I'm tired. Like I've just been talking for an hour and editing a video for another hour. So after I'm done, I just go over there and watch TV, and it's like maybe 5 o'clock, and I'm sitting there, and then out of nowhere, and then I have I think it's from 2013, a Sharp HD television. So it's an old TV. It was an old TV, and it was. See, I'm using past tense. It was an old TV, and and I always wanted to upgrade, but I just never had a stable enough position to where I could do that. So I'm sitting there watching TV, and the screen is the top of the screen just goes dark, not completely dark, but dark enough to where it's affecting the image, and I can go, oh my gosh, my TV is going to die. Like at that point, there's no point in fixing the panel. And don't tell me, oh, you gotta do the pixels or blah, blah. No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not doing that. The TV's from 2013. It's 8 years old, and so it goes dark, and I go, oh man, I can't afford a new TV. Well, hopefully it just stays like this, and I'll tough it out until I get a new job or something. And then I get like a phone call or something. And I deal with that, and then just out of nowhere, just a high pitched buzzing, and I'm like, what is that? Like that's like, if it goes on for longer than like 20 seconds, I go, what was that? And I turn off the TV, and I go, oh God, it's the TV. Turn it back on, and it's still going. Then it gets a little bit louder, and then at one point the TV just starts flickering on and off, but not like on and off like the TV's turning off, but the screen starts turning. It goes black, pictures back, but it's still the top half of the screen is basically missing. Black, pictures back, and it does it in increments of 2 to 3 seconds. And by that I mean the screen turns off for like 3 seconds, and then it's back on. And I just go, oh no, please don't die, please don't die. I cannot afford a new TV. And then boom, TV just dies, and I'm like, God bless it. So I unplug it. I unplug everything that's plugged in: the Chromecast, the Google TV, the PlayStation, the Switch, the Xbox, and then I bring it over here right next to the credenza, right next to the Home Max, the Google Home Max, and the printer and stuff. And I just go, oh, I can't afford it. So I take the TV, a similarly old television, a Vizio this time. So it's a brand. Sharp is a Best Buy brand. Vizio, and it's small. It's like maybe 24 inches. I pull it out of my room, or 24. It might be, 27, 24, 27, maybe even 30, 32. And I sit it on the thing, and it just takes up this tiny little spot where the 43 inch was. And I just go, oh my God, I can't. I'm so I was already having a bad week, but that just encapsulated it. And then Saturday, Saturday I wake up and it's raining, and I'm just so depressed and mad about this. And I do some volunteer work, and then I come back home, and I go, you know what? I don't care what happens. I'm gonna buy a TV. Which is not what anyone should do. So I go to Best Buy's website, and right now, so Prime Day was about to start. So I go to Best Buy's website, and Best Buy was also doing a Amazon Prime themed day to sell their electronics, and I go, and I know there's a TV I want. It's from LG, and it's the best rated TV for these next gen consoles, and it's got Apple AirPlay and casting, Google casting, and it's basically future proof for the next couple of years. And HDMI 2.1, 4K, 120 hertz, game playing, all that stuff. So I go, this is a TV, and I start weighing my options. I go, well, just the, and then I purchase one. I purchase a variant of the TV. I purchase the TV. I purchase a variant size. So I order it, I pick it up, it's still raining, 2 p.m. I pick it up at 6 p.m. So I've been waiting all day. I've been reading reviews and making sure and all this stuff. I pick it up at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and then it barely fits in my car. That's problem one. It's too heavy for me to literally to pick up. It's literally too heavy for me to pick up by myself and bring it in. So I'm again, it's raining. There's a garage, but there is like a 2-foot gap where it'll rain on the TV. So I drag it in, then I unbox it, and I'm sweating. I'm tired. The TV itself, the box was too heavy. The TV itself was so cumbersome, so wider than my wingspan. I've got giant arms and giant hands. I'm not joking when I say that. It barely fits on my couch, and then I set it up on the TV stand, and immediately I go, "Oh, it's too big! It's too big!" I start freaking out, and then I realize how much it costs, and I go, "No, I can't have this." I call Best Buy and I go, "Can I bring this back? I want to exchange it for a smaller one." They go, "Yeah, why are you freaking out?" So I don't go to the Best Buy that's by my house. I have to go to the Best Buy that's in Buckhead. So that's like a 15-minute drive, and the weather's probably like 20. I take this, so I pack up the TV. I've there's trash everywhere. So I'll put all it back inside the TV, pack it up. I bring it to this Best Buy. They get it out of the car, and then I get a size down, and I'm immediately satiated. It's half the price. It is half the price of the bigger version, because there's a 10-inch difference. And so now I have this 55-inch LG C1 sitting on the thing, and I look at it every day, and I'm just like, man, what could have been? But I see all these like YouTube reviewers and these tech people online, that when LG sends them a TV, they get the biggest version, and I don't think that's the smartest thing to do. Because I looked at it and went, oh, maybe they'll fit for me. And maybe it's because I'm stupid, but, and the last TV I had was a 43-inch. And I just like, maybe 65 will work. And then and I get it and I go, nope, too much money and it's too big. But if LG sent me a TV, like if LG sent me a 77, I wouldn't flinch. I would just go, yeah, thanks, I appreciate it. And I would hang it up. First of all, I would not put the stand down. I would not put it on a stand. I would hang it up, and that would be my TV for the next 8 years. So, yeah, that was my big adventure. Anyway, and all I did, and can you believe all I did? I've only watched 2 like Dolby. It's got like Dolby Atmos, Dolby Vision, all that stuff. I've only watched like 2. No, three, because I watched Infinite on Paramount Plus, skip. Luca on Disney Plus, skip. And something. Oh, and what else? Something else on HBO. Something on HBO Max. And I'm going to watch In the Heights again at some point. But anyway, that's it. That's all. That was my TV adventure. But all I've been watching is late night on it because Conan's leaving. So, but as the start of the story. Seth Meyers was on CBS Sunday Morning. They did a little piece about him, so check that out. It's in the show notes. And then there was also a Seth Meyers Q&A on Deadline. Listen, I was talking about Seth Meyers before it was cool. I love Seth, man. I love his show, and he's just so good and so funny. And you should definitely check out this interview on Deadline from Peter White. No relation. But they talk about him being back in the studio and doing these in-person interviews, doing Zoom interviews, and all this stuff. Hanging out. It's good. It's a good interview. Check it out. And then, so moving on to Conan and everything. Kimmel and Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert, did one segment on Conan. Kimmel had talked about him during his Conan and Andy during his monologue, and then Stephen Colbert has Brian Stacks, who used to work with Conan. They did a little segment, so that was great too. There's a bad article I want to bring to light. The Wrap has not been doing very well with articles lately, and this one's written by Tony Maglio. And I know you're better than this, buddy. I know you are. But this comes from The Wrap and Tony Maglio. Conan, the show, calls it quits amid worst ratings slide of all the late night talk shows. And now I hate to give them clicks, but this is an article that just is talking about ratings. And I got to tell you, the only people that care about ratings are networks and buttholes. No one talks about ratings anymore like that. It's just so stupid. And that was that's such a grab 'em headline that I hate it. I hate it with like all of my heart. So If I frame this incorrectly, I could look a lot like Rudy Giuliani's son responding to his dad. You ever see, if you watch a lot of late night, you'll see the video of Andrew Giuliani, I think that's his name, who's misframed. His head, there's like 40 feet of headroom, and then he's like half of his head is like in the frame. It's very funny. Check it out. He did not do it on purpose. He's an idiot. And another thing I think you should check out is Dave Itzkoff's interview with Andy Richter over at the New York Times. I think it's a wonderful interview, and it talks about Andy. Dave and Andy talk about the tenure of the late night game that Conan played, and Andy's place in late night as a sidekick, and how the term and the place of a sidekick is waning, and he was the kind of the last one. But it's a very good interview. And then also another good interview is Joseph Adelane's exit interview with Conan. This is a guy who's talked to Conan since the 90s. He interviewed Conan in the winter of 1994. So that's a year after Conan started. And so he's basically talked to him with every episode, not every episode, but every iteration of Conan's late night programming since. And I think, and it's such a good interview because Adeline asked the questions that I would specifically ask. And everybody, for what it's worth, Conan, very good host. They've done a lot of stuff. But if I have to hear one more person go, I love it when he went to Finland. I get it. The travel stuff is great, but there's a lot of insular things that I want to hear about. There's a lot of, where Conan's at right now and where he wants to go next. Both physically and mentally and spiritually and all this stuff. And it's just a wonderful interview. And then also the HBO Max show. It's just a wonderful piece of business. I just really think it's a really good interview, really done well. I keep getting these casting emails, and they're not for me. They're asking for like children and women. And I have not been a child or woman in years. And then Adeline asks Conan, who is impressive in comedy right now, and Conan names so many great people from so many different backgrounds, and shows from, and it's just like he talks about the Amazing World of Gumball and how he says it's some of the best writing he's seen in years, and he's right. Gumball is great. I hope they get to finish off the show at some point. Check out Amazing World of Gumball. It's a good little free advertisement for them. And then, as I mentioned before, Daily Show. I don't know if I mentioned this. Daily Show is going to break. I think I did. I've been talking for 22 minutes. Daily Show is going to break. Trevor Noah is no longer going to be shooting his show at his home. This comes from Peter White at Deadline. They're going to be on break until September, I believe. And they've been doing everything from home, September 13th. And apparently, Trevor says that there's going to be the show's going to have a different look. So I hope that doesn't mean that, I guess we'll get into this now, but late night had to change, obviously, for the pandemic, and some hosts picked up great habits, some did not. And in terms of bad habits, I think that Trevor Noah's cutaways during the monologue of his show, or the opening segment, aren't good. They're not funny, and it's very obvious that they're setting up these cutaways, and it's just him doing them, and they're just needless jokes that don't need to happen. And so I hope that doesn't mean that they're gonna have more of that type of stuff. And I keep thinking like that was something born out of the pandemic. But in terms of like good things that happened, Sam, in terms of somebody like Sam B, there's a lot of tags to jokes, wherein there'll be something serious, like 2 or 3 sentences of seriousness, and then there's a sentence that's just a straight up joke. But that's a response to something that you just said. So it'll be like, Rudy Giuliani's, got his license taken away in New York, and I really feel bad for him because first he loses his wife, cousin, and now this, just something like that. And that's not a good joke. I understand. Don't write me. But there we go. And then, but the Daily Show for what it is, for what it's worth. Jordan Klepper, Roy Wood Jr., Roy Choi, Desi Lydic, and oh God, I forgot the other one. Daily Show correspondents. I can see her in my head. She's on the Great North. Michael Costa, I forgot about him. Jabuki Young White. And oh God, I can see her in my head. Dulce Sloan. I couldn't even. The Wikipedia didn't pop up. But Dulce Sloan. They're all very funny, all very interesting, and they all have good points. And they're all. But the thing is, they're very funny. God, it's just the work. Daily Show is just above all else. It's just so informative and. I get why people watched, what's his name, Jon Stewart, tell his jokes and do stuff on that show because it can't be and obviously you don't watch those shows for the information, which I hope you don't, but yeah, it's still good. So let's move on. So the Daily Show, that I would say this is the late night report card series, which I forgot to talk about, but. Yeah, this is the summer 2021 edition. And you know what? I think everyone's doing a bang-up job. Now, we did lose... Oh, God, what is her name? Lily Singh. We lost Lily Singh. That show... It died in a better fashion than what I think it started out in. So, for that show, and the same thing for years ago, the Pete Holmes show, was shot in bulk. And they shot everything in bulk, and then they started releasing the shows nightly, which is crazy. Which is what I think the Pete Holmes show was also nightly as well for a little bit. I just thought about Busy Phillips' show. Even though I didn't see every episode, I saw enough of it to really enjoy it. I wish that show was still on because I think the late night world is really missing a voice like Busy's. But then. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, so Lily's show is now over, and so is Hasan Minhaj's. So we lost both of their shows. Lily's show. We'll talk about Lily's first. It is a shame because I do think, even though that the target audience was millennials and lower, I do think that there was a place. Especially for it to be on at 1:30 in the morning on NBC, there's a place for that. From an outsider's perspective, I think NBC's view of it was, we're going to have this show from a popular YouTuber. We're gonna have her bring her. We're gonna have her try to fit into this mold, and that'll be that, and then that'll attract viewers. But that doesn't necessarily work. And then when the second season came around, they're not shooting in bulk. They're shooting more relevant stuff. And so now there's not this attempt to be evergreen, and they're letting Lily bring in more of her YouTube voice, and they also rented a house so they could do stuff in a simpler fashion, and that's where I think that show did its best work, was that she was in, even if it's interviewing guests over Zoom, she still had this house that typically a YouTuber would still have, and she was shooting all of her monologues and her talk. What are they called? I did a packet for the show. What's it called? Her vlog style, I guess. And even if I'm not a fan of her, I still I know that's where she is. That's where she lives. And so it is a shame that they did not give that show more of a chance. Again, not a fan, but I would love, especially just to have her, a woman of color, who also thought she was the only woman in late night. But to have a woman of color in that position on NBC is just amazing. And I think she's queer too. So just to have, come on, she's checking multiple boxes. And you guys could give her one more season. Yeah. Anyway, and it's not like that show costs any money. It's not like all you did was rent a house. That's it. You didn't do anything else for her. Okay, and then Hasan Minhaj's show on Netflix was canceled. And this just goes along with my notion that that Netflix doesn't know what it's doing in terms of weekly shows and weekly shows. And they still have a lot of stuff that is weekly, but that comes out of, they're not all like American, I don't think, because there's a Korean show that that is on my list that because each episode's like an hour and a half long, that does weekly shows, or it might be Chinese. No, I think it's Korean. And don't ask me north or south. I think it might be south. It's a North Korean show. Kim Jong-un hosts a late night show. Last Week Tonight with Kim Jong-un. I was trying to think of a funnier title, but I couldn't. And so Hasan lasted longer than Michelle Wolf, and he lasted long. And this wasn't a late night show, but he lasted longer than Joel McHale's show. And Chelsea's show was the longest running one so far. But I think even for Chelsea and even for Michelle Wolf, there was room for that. And Netflix is just hemorrhaging shows and cash. Hasan's show could have lasted. I'm going to say somewhere else, but then again, I think Sarah Silverman's show on Hulu didn't last at all, and that was a good show. And I just don't think Hulu knows what it's doing in terms of that stuff. That sounds mean. But how can you do a late night show for streaming? Because any one of these weekly shows, unless you're Amber Ruffin's show, which I guess we'll get to next, you're gonna have 10 episodes, and you're barely late night, and you don't have the. I'm not saying that you need to have 400. How many days are in a year? 365. I'm not saying you need to have 260 episodes a year, or in terms of Last Week Tonight, you need to have 40 episodes. But it just, I mean, you can only do so much with 10, and then going to break. So, I did have my issue with Hasan's show, wherein that it was really reliant on audience applause and just all. And that's one thing. I don't have to keep mentioning this, but I hate applause breaks. That's why, we'll take a pause on Amber's show. But that's why when Colbert, he finally returned to the Ed Sullivan Theater, it's great to see him back in the theater, and I know he's missing the audience. I know particularly that he really enjoys the audience aspect. But A, they're not all wearing masks. And B, my biggest issue is that I was watching, and I spent the whole week watching every late night show, because that's what I do, because I hate myself. But that, watching and listening to stuff, it's just like the monologue is 5 jokes, and it's 10 minutes long, and it's 8 minutes of clapping, and 2 minutes of a joke. Some cases he doesn't even get to finish the joke. He gets halfway through and they're like, God. Oh, I have an alert to watch Minari because I rented it, and it's now time to watch it. So I guess it's the end of the podcast. No. I'll just watch it tomorrow. So Colbert is back, and he and John Baptiste are doing their awkward, hey, we're friends thing, but I don't think they are. And it sounds weird, but I don't think they are. And it's the show. The show is the same as it's ever been. It's the same exact show it's ever been. Maybe I won't do this on a laptop. Maybe I'll just do this on my phone, because this thing's already chugging along at a very slow rate. But it's the same high energy show that we've been watching for the past couple of years. I am subscribed to it. Oh, there it is. I forgot what it was called for a little bit. So they do have musical performances, but they are outside. They're still doing Tuning Out the News, which another show I wrote. I sent it a packet for. It's very true. And did not get the job. Spent too much time on it. And for some reason, I still think they're uploading older stuff from when he was just doing the he was working from a smaller theater with no audience. And so, God, I hate to talk about this, but ratings, just for a quick second. The things that get the most views for Colbert, I think ratings took a huge dip in the pandemic for late night, wide, just across the entire medium. The only things that get millions of views are still now the stunts, a closer look segments, and Colbert's monologue, and then everything else. Everything else, you're lucky if you get a half a million, or 250,000 rather, or 100,000. Because I'm just seeing a lot of stuff that is just like interviews that are just falling. Like even Lorde can't get 500,000 views on Colbert. But excuse me, I accidentally clicked something. So that's Colbert's show, and I would say they're doing well. Everybody's doing well across the pantheon of late night right now. And then I guess we'll go to the Night Show. That's his immediate competitor, and that's who everybody wants to plot him against. Again, speaking of ratings, there's not a lot of stuff there, but they're still doing the stunts. They're still doing a lot of good stuff over there at the Tonight Show. You have the name Tonight Show, and but I think out of all the people to retire first, I think it'll be Kimmel, and then after that, I think it'll be Colbert. But since Fallon has re-upped, I think for like 5 years, it's gonna be imperative that I know some NBC brass is saying, hey, we need to, or some producer is saying, hey, we need to find a way to get more views on the online stuff, and because everybody's less concerned about the broadcast views now and the 3-day ratings and all that stuff. But I think, except for the trades, except for the rap, for some reason. But they'll need to find a way, and this is me thinking of in a producerial manner. They'll need to find a way to go beyond, let's do this cutesy thing with Kristen Bell, and that'll get 1 million views. Let's do this game show with Scarlett Johansson, the world's most prominent trans Asian actress. She said that, and I'm going to keep reminding her of this. Keep reminding the world of this. And so they have to find a way to innovate. They have to find a way to do something more than they're already doing. And you know what? And maybe that goes for everybody around the late night world, because even watching Corden this week, the stuff they have to do is, if Fallon is the proto version, the before version of Corden, and he's doing stuff for broadcast, and then the online happens in the middle of his tenure from late night and Tonight Show, and online and YouTube stuff becomes this big thing, and they go, okay, well now we have to do virality and broadcast, so that people have something to talk about. Then Corden is straight up virality, and they have all these stunts. They do a late night week, a late show week with Justin Bieber or Ed Sheeran. They do James Corden hangs out with Tom Brady, and James Corden recaps the Fast Saga in 10 minutes. I think that show, and same thing for Jimmy's, they are better off without these audiences who they have to kind of cater to and dictate with. But Jimmy does better with an audience, and Corden kind of is doing great without one. He just has his staff in the audience, and they're interacting. His monologue is less of a monologue, and it's like it takes to the episode that aired last night on the 24th. It took him 3 minutes. It took him 3 minutes from the theme song to the start of the news to start talking about the news, and in those 3 minutes, he was just and his, if I was British, in his words, faffing about with his staff, and that's great. They just do stupid things, and that's that's what makes Corden better. Oh God, the camera just shut off. Oh no. Oh no. Oh. Oh God. Okay. All right. Well, we'll take a break, I guess. I hate this stupid show. Everything happens in this stupid show. Here we go. Go and break. All right, and we're back. Oh God, the battery in the camera died on me, so I had to stop recording for a second. All right, but seriously, let's get back to the show. When I want to do something, I just gotta finish this. So that's what I want to do. But so I was talking about Corden. Yeah, so just he and his staff just messing around is what makes that show better than it seems. You know, if you're somebody who says, "Oh, I don't like Corden. He's too," like the same people say this about Fallon too. Like, "Oh, he's so fake, and I just don't like him." I mean, the more time you spend with him, the more you really get to understand, and you read the interviews and stuff. Everybody on these shows, this is why they have their shows, is more genuine. Some of that comes off a little bit better than the others, but I have no issue with how Corden operates. In fact, I want to see the virality. I want to see that if they're the only show doing it. In the same vein, I want to see Fallon, push himself to the limits when it comes to, because they have the name, they have this, they can get the star power. They have the Tonight Show. It's Lorne Michaels produced, and it's on NBC, and it's the oldest running the late night show. So, let's do it. So we'll move on to, obviously I talked about Seth. Seth is great. Just that show is so good without an audience. And at some point, and they realize it too. And there was an interview that he did with, last week or that came out last week with Mike Shoemaker, his producer, and, on, Slate. And I said it was like, check that out, because that was definitely a good interview. Because that interviewer understands, yes, this is the best version of the show, and so do Seth and Mike, but they can't. This is not something that's sustainable. So eventually, they're going to have to bring an audience back, and they'll, we'll have to suffer through applause breaks. But we'll move on to the Peacock streaming show. And see, this is what I don't understand, is how come Netflix, arguably the biggest entertainment entity in the world right now, cannot seem to have a sustainable or retainable audience? And also, put out the numbers. Put out the numbers for these shows. No one's going to say, oh, Stranger Things got higher numbers than Michelle Wolf's show. Of course it did. There's two different things. Like, come on. Game of Thrones gets higher numbers than Barry. Yeah, we understand that. But we still know the numbers on those shows versus Nielsen having to cobble together Twitter statistics on a streaming show. Just put out the numbers. If it's something really unsustainable, then stop making late night shows. Jesus. And talk shows, Netflix. But Peacock is doing a really good job with the Amber Ruffin show. In fact, I think NBC Universal is just a very good in terms of I mean, they gave Lily Singh 2 seasons when they didn't have to. But I guess it costs a lot of money too. But I think they're really good in terms of that stuff of supporting certain avenues now, supporting certain avenues of the show versus I think maybe even 5 years ago none of this would, like, even if Peacock was a thing, because CISO died. They gave that a year and a half. They said no dice. But the Amber Ruffin show on Peacock is so very good, and maybe it's because Amber has been and is still with late night, and they have that same mentality, and it's just the same kind of jokes, but from a different perspective of a black woman. It's great. And I really enjoy it. And, I mentioned earlier that Andy was one of the last few bastions of sidekickdom. Tarek over there on Amber Ruffin's show is basically doing his same job. Jump in a little bit more, Tarek, just don't be afraid. You seem nervous. Don't be afraid. So it's a wonderful show. And I just think, and every episode is a song. and it's a weekly show, and it comes out at 9 p.m. on Fridays. But man, it's still so good. Also, I want to mention Seth Meyers Corrections on YouTube.com / late night Seth Meyers. It's oh god, the corrections are so fun. It's so funny. Just watch the show. Watch the show every single day. Watch it every single day. A lot of callbacks. So Amber Ruffin show's great. Jenny Hagel's a great head writer. Demi Adijuibe also writes on that show. Excuse me, get a little choked up. And they've just added a bunch of writers to their roster, so that's wonderful to hear. That NBC and NBC Universal just thinks that show has enough legs for more writers. That's so good. I'm so grateful for that. Even though I don't work there or anything, but it's just such a good show. That show never needs an audience ever. Who am I missing? Kimmel. Kimmel's good. There's just something about that guy. His delivery of jokes where it just seems so mean and scathing where it's really not. That makes him so appealing and so funny. And I love Jimmy Kimmel. And these summer breaks, I guess, are gonna be happening. I don't know when the last time that was kind of a surprise it was going to break, but I think they'll be happening until the end of his contract, until he gets bored with the show completely. I think if ABC said no, you're not taking a summer break, then he would not have re-upped, and the show would probably end within the next year or so. But I think he's on for a couple of years, and you know what, his show, he and his wife, they put on a wonderful show. Because his wife's, I think, an executive producer now. I think she was upped, or three other women were upped, and I think she was already executive. Anyway, great. They do a great job. They are able to use the Hollywood Boulevard as part of their set, and it's just so. And by that I mean they do a lot of outside pieces right out there, and it's still so. I was gonna say fresh. I've never said that. It's so fresh, baby. Get in there. But it's fun and inviting, and just Kimmel. I love the way he delivers jokes. It feels like a slap across the face. Talking about My Pillow guy and all that stuff. So fun. In his interview with the My Pillow guy, my God, and Hunter Biden, he was, he's just, hey, you did a lot of crack. yeah, I did. For both of them, because they both, I think, were on crack. It's Jimmy's just great. Not a fan of oh god, the way he has to talk about The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, and I don't know if that's a thing from the network. I don't know if it's a thing from him and his wife because they like the show or something. I just don't like it. I skip past that part of the monologue because I don't like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. Because if I want to see white people date, I can just go outside. I was going to say on the street I live on. I can just go outside near the Beltline in Atlanta. Who else? So let's get into the cable people. Desus and Mero have moved from their homes and back into the studio. They've only just come back this past week. But it is still the same show. I don't think they need an audience ever again. I like hearing, because that show does not have traditional writing, with the exception of the sketches that do not need to exist. I think that not having an audience for them and just having their producers and their writers and the staff just hang around and laugh at their jokes, that's much more funny and authentic, and it kind of brings them back to the Vice show, which was a lot of people discovered them. And the feel of it, and I think that's just a better all version for them, because it allows them to do, even though I don't like him, Lil Nas X, but it allows them to go to California and shoot an interview with Lil Nas X in a roller rink, to do a lot of different stuff. Again, they don't need sketches. Please stay away from the sketches. So. And then staying on Showtime, I truly, literally, at twice the speed on YouTube, and which I thank YouTube for, which I try not to use that thing, but it really came in handy. I watched Ziwe's first episode before I shot this and before recording this, excuse me, and if if I didn't realize that Ziwe was a character, I kind of would hate it. I mean, when I say character, she's like part character, but also the stuff that she's talking about and the the questions she asks are valid and everything. But it's just the way that she asked them that I'm not a fan of. And she's if you don't know anything about Ziwe, she used to write on Desus and Mero, but now she has this show because like she posted stuff on her Instagram and YouTube asking basically white people, like, are you racist and things like that. And just questions kind of along those lines. I'm really dumbing it down, and there's really more to it than that. But the show is, I think you should definitely check it out. The first episode's on YouTube, and it's a very interesting watch. Again, like 5 minutes in, I was thinking like, man, this just seems kind of not good. But then I watched it more and I enjoyed it. I hate reading comments. I do not like to read comments. But I looked at but on YouTube mobile, you see comments like this is the first thing you see. And I was looking at a comment and I saw a white woman. She was the top comment. And then I looked through all the comments and it's all like white women commenting on this, like taking these people to task, and Ziwe is such a character, a funny person. And I'm just thinking this show is about this funny and poignant black woman asking these questions to white people, saying, do you think you did a good job playing a gay character even though you're a straight white man? Asking questions like that. And the audience, though it may be 18 to 34-year-olds, should not encompass mostly white women. It's just a very interesting thing to see that, like the Phoebe Bridgers interview, it was a lot of white women commenting, which is kind of bothersome because that's not how, this show. I'm not saying it was made for people of color, but it's not really marketed as such. But there should be more viewers of color than what there are now. It's highly produced. So if you're into that, which I'm not, there you go. But it's a lot of speaking of cutaways, a lot of editing, but she plays into it, and that kind of plays its part in it as well. But I'm still not a huge fan of that stuff. And then there's the other new show from Sam J. It's called Pause over on HBO. I just watched an episode of that show, and they'll take one topic and she'll sit down and talk about it. But she's not talking to anybody for a lot of it. So it's like done in two parts. And I don't know if this is true for the rest of the episodes, but for at least for this episode it was. She was basically having a party during the COVID pandemic, but she was basically having a party with her friends, and they brought the conversation. They just brought up a conversation, and they all talked about that conversation basically around a couch. And it was like, but it's in a party, so it's like truly a party, and people are having drinks and stuff, but they're all having this conversation that has not, I don't think, ever been had before. That's a good idea. And then the other part of it, so they were interspersed segments. The other part of it was Sam sitting and interviewing two black Republicans, and one of them came out, which was surprising. I missed it, and then Sam's like, "I want to hug you," and I went, "Wait, what happened?" I think Sam J's show comes off a little rough at first, and then I grew to like it by like minute 3 or so. I'm taking you through my emotions I'm a Cancer baby, and I'm a Cancer baby, comma baby. I'm a Cancer baby, and maybe baby, and that's from American Dad. I'm so sorry. And so that I mean, it's just even the first episode they had this conversation. I don't think it has been had on a televisional stage before. And it's handled so well. I don't know if I like the party aspect of it, and I don't know if that happens the rest of the episodes, like I said. But she's not behind a desk, and she's not sitting in a chair talking directly to somebody. So she's doing something different, and I have to applaud that. Like the same thing that's why, I mean, obviously Desus and Mero are very funny, and I'm attracted to their comedy aspects, but that's why their show is so appealing, because they're not just also sitting behind a desk. But that's not to say that there's no room for somebody sitting behind a desk. I think like for the past couple of months, Conan, huge, like I'm a huge fan of his, and I don't like to use the word idol, so I look up to him. I think he's a very funny guy, and I always wanted to host a late night show. And then over the past like 5 years, there's been like a million late night shows, and things that they call late night that don't really late night. Maybe Sam J and Ziwe shows aren't late night, but I don't know. I don't know what really dictates and constitutes late night anymore. So, but I think that if I were to host a show now, it would have to be something along the lines of what Ziwe is doing, and what Sam J is doing, and Desus and Mero, and Sam B even, and what Seth is doing right now, because that's better than, joke punchline, joke punchline, joke punchline. But over the past like month or so, I've been thinking about it more. It would be better if it was joke punchline, but then I also, every episode stretched my wings and did something different. And so you basically, like, Corden is doing that, doing something different. And that's what I kind of like about that. But I don't know what a show of mine would look like. And I'm missing Last Week Tonight. Again, John Oliver, his show is thriving without an audience. And I know they're going to bring an audience back. And, I'm going to hate it. But man, oh man, it's watching his show without an audience clapping over a joke is so much better than what it used to be. So he doesn't have to mention the white void every episode. And also, I think there's a lot of jokes that are written by people who aren't him, obviously, because there's writers, that he delivers, and it doesn't make sense. He'll talk, he'll suddenly have all this knowledge of like a reality show, and it doesn't fit the character whatsoever. Like if you think Kim is going to go back to Christian, bro, that's like, dude, stay. I hate to say this, don't say stay in lane, but just stay with what your character is putting off, and it's kind of like a meekish, British guy. Yeah. So, am I missing a show? I've got all the NBC show, both NBC show, all the NBC shows, Lily. I got the ABC show, Kimmel. I got the CBS shows. I got the HBO show. I got 2 shows, excuse me. I got the Showtime shows. And I got Sam B, and I got Conan. I think that's it. Yeah, late night is in the Daily Show. Late night's in a good place. Also for the Daily Show, let's stretch it to an hour, and 4 days a week, obviously. Stretch it to an hour, 11 to 12, and so 45 minutes, and give the correspondents more time, and just have like 2 correspondent segments per episode, and stretch it to an hour. Nothing needs to follow the Daily Show except for the Daily Show. So do a 45-minute episode. They've already did that by stretching the episodes to 45 minutes exactly, and so it'll be 11 to 11:45, and they'll have maybe a 39-minute episode. But have longer interviews. I mean, have more quality interviews. I think, and that's another thing for the Daily Show. I keep thinking of things. Trevor's interviews suffered because he wasn't with the person in person, so he's focused on nodding his head and making eye contact with the camera, and he's got to ask, well, what did you do all pandemic? Which I don't want to hear. And that's a question I heard from a lot of people, and I have the same answer from a lot of famous people. Oh, well, we thought this was going to last 2 or 3 weeks, so we just hunkered down in our house. I just don't. That's so dumb. All right, it is June 25th, 2021. I don't need to hear that ever again. I don't need to hear any version of that. Stop it. You're not special. But late night is in a good position, and now it's time for it to change. SNL, I've been watching a lot of old SNL on Peacock. And to see, like, I just watched Bernie Mac host an episode, which I had no clue who host an episode. I love Bernie Mac. He's so funny. But to see how it changed, even that was 20-something years ago. It's 2021. I think that was maybe 2003. So that's like 17, 18 years ago, or 2004. I mean, it's just how SNL has evolved. Even if something is not funny, and words that they use, like there's stuff that obviously you can't use them, but like just sentence structure and weekend update and how sketches have just become faster, how a comedy as a whole has become faster. Watching stuff like that, I watched a lot of Carson as well, which again I think if the Carson Foundation, his family owns that, all the clips and stuff. If they were smart, they would just put that stuff on YouTube, instead of giving it to Pluto TV and every and Antenna TV. I think, just come on, man. Put it on YouTube, make a big hubbub about it. Let NBC make a big hubbub about it so I can watch a lot of good quality clips from Carson. So, where would I like to see it go after this summer break? All of these shows, they've seen what they can do during the pandemic. They've seen how they can be malleable and change. So let's push the envelope a little further. I think Colbert and Fallon are going to get too complacent with their. And they kind of have to, because they're the leading stars for the broadcast time slots. But let's Corden, Myers, Sam, Desus and Mero. Let's push the envelope. Amber Ruffin, push the envelope and see where this late night thing can go. Just do different stories and do better. Do harder stories. That's easy to say, but just make. Oh, Derek Chauvin sentenced to 22 and a half years in prison. I don't know if that's enough, but just make sure that you're doing your due diligence. It's so stupid. Just keep going, and go 100. Go 100. That's all you can do. That's all I can ask for. Well, that was the late night report card for summer 2021. I'll see you in the fall or the winter or whatever. Listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com. Oh, Jesus. Head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see do stuff. Interviews with their favorite comedians, Chris Gethard, Flula Borg, Shelby Wolstein, the rest. It's a good little website. Due for a redesign, so we'll see what happens by the birthday of this show. By the birthday of the series, of the website. Jiminy Christmas. If you want to see a video version of this show, head to youtube.com/cpluscomedy. I put a lot of work into it. People watching it. There's not even people watching it. But I think it looks good today, baby. My computer's slow at processing right now, so it's probably chugging along in that video. What else? If you want to see, also on youtube.com/cpluscomedy, watch our premiere show. It's called News Time. I'm so sorry. I'm bored. It's called News Time, and it is, I take one story a week and I dive right into it. This week's episode is about Conan. I take 10 of my favorite segments and recurring bits and all that stuff, and I just talk about them in depth. I did not write an episode, but I just wanted to speak from the heart about those bits because I love Coco. I love Coco. One day, hopefully I get to work with him. So there we go. And watch the other episodes. There's like 340 something episodes left. No, there's like 300 and there's like 352 other episodes because I think I've done 350 already. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at C Plus Comedy. Rate, review, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music. Tune in. The rest. Pocket Cast. Thank you for listening. I very much appreciate it. We'll say goodbye now.